Isu transisi energi merupakan ambisius besar antara Indonesia dan Uni Eropa. Beragam diskusi tentang transisi energi dibahas di pertemuan tingkat menteri pada presidensi G20. Bahkan 3 komisioner Uni Eropa datang secara langsung untuk membahas isu tersebut. Salah satunya Komisioner Uni Eropa untuk Energi, Mrs. Kadri Simson. Very good morning, Mrs. Simson. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good morning.
So let's talk about energy transition. So energy transition is one of the fundamental themes in Indonesia G20 presidency, and we would like to know more about what are the real actions and the real support from the European Union in order to accelerate the green energy transition. Mrs. Simson.
Well, indeed, we had a very constructive G20 energy ministers meeting under Indonesian presidency. And despite the fact that current circumstances are very challenging, across the globe we have energy emergency and prices are making headlines all across the globe. We managed to keep our ambition, and I think that this is a positive outcome that around the table none of the ministers was expressing their willingness to water down the ambition that that was agreed among members during previous presidencies. For us, it is important that Indonesia has committed to become climate neutral by 2060, but the target is important, but it doesn't mean anything if there is no implementation. And at the margins of G20 energy ministers meeting, International Energy Agency had a chance to present the net zero roadmap for Indonesia. So this is a concrete action plan, and I am very happy to tell you that this action plan was also supported and sponsored by European Commission.
So speaking of supportive and also the ambitious, we are hosting the G20 presidency, and Indonesia called the G20 countries to help developing countries and emerging countries affected by energy crisis. So how do you see about the call? Yes, the call of the help, the aims of the minister in the G20 presidency, Mrs. Simson.
We do understand that different countries do have different starting positions, and so does Indonesia. You have lots of challenges ahead of you, and we are willing to help, not only financially, but also providing expertise. What can you do? And in Europe, we still do have countries who are mining coal, as you do, and we are offering them just transition so that no region will be left behind. And we truly believe that this just transition principle has to be a global principle and has to apply also for Indonesia. Right now, Indonesia is among the key partners for just energy transition program, and this is a important exercise how us, European Union, together with our partners, United States of America and Japan, can help you to accelerate green transition, because you do have lots of resources here, but of course it needs financing, and this is what we can do with this Just Energy Transition Partnership.
So we are, before going further, talking about challenges that you've mentioned before, you've visited some of places in Indonesia, right? In Bali, Balikpapan is Kalimantan to the coal mining sites. So did you find another fact that should be developed on those places? Tell us more about your visit to some places in Indonesia. Yes.
Well, we have figured out that in the regions where carbon emissions do not have any price, and where the pollution doesn't create restrictions, then it's very difficult to promote renewable transition. And that's why I think it is important also for your local industry to understand that global warming is something that doesn't disappear. So we have to act, and we have to act together. And in this regard, producing electricity using coal is a very polluting way to produce electricity. So even if Europe will cut all our emissions, then we will cut only 8% of global CO2 emissions. It doesn't make difference. So we need other partners to act. It might not happen tomorrow, but you need a plan for 2030. And then unless you do have this plan how to replace some of the coal-fired power plants with renewables, it would be very difficult to achieve climate neutrality by 2060. So this was also behind this decision to ask International Energy Agency to create this net zero roadmap.
So how about the collaboration or cooperation between the private sector and public sector to find how do you see about the cooperation in Indonesia in order to accelerate the green energy transition?
Well, we need the private sector to be involved because public funds will never be enough. Well, what has happened in Europe and what can be future of Indonesia is that, for example, offshore wind is one of the cheapest electricity sources already now in 2022. So this is something that no one can manipulate because wind is here, so there is no foreign power who can switch it off. And I think that at current context, we are thinking about global warming, but we are also worried about security of supply. And in this regard, renewables are granting you local production.
So, Mrs. Simson, you've mentioned on your Twitter that one of the main drivers of this energy crisis is about Russia's invasion of Ukraine and its use of energy as a political weapon. So, what would be the global message that you want to deliver to global leaders about this situation? We know that we are facing an unprecedented situation, the crisis, the tension, everything related to an energy transition is harder than before. What would be the messages?
Well, Europe witnesses a situation where one of our major trading partners, Russia, has been not a reliable partner. They are using their fossil fuels as a political weapon. And in this regard, well, we are ready to get rid of their production. So we have implemented a plan and we will cut our natural gas consumption by 15% already this year. There are international buyers who are still willing to buy Russian crude oil or petrol products, and we propose that they should do that so only by introducing price cap for Russian oil. By doing so, they are not sponsoring Russian war machine that is killing Ukrainians and creating a ecological disaster in their country.
Yes, Mrs. Simson, hosting the G20 presidency in this year is quite difficult because we are facing this unprecedented situation. So you have been conducting ministerial meeting with our minister and also conducting the fruitful discussion with the stakeholders, expert in energy transition. So how do you see so far about and what do you expect about the G20 outcome absolutely for energy transition, and also tell us more about the upcoming Indonesia European Union collaboration and diplomatic ties on it.
I complimented Minister Tasrif, who has led an excellent work negotiating among energy ministers, and this is truly a challenging time period. But then Indonesia will next year be responsible for ASEAN. And as a presidency for ASEAN, we as European Union are expecting that we will have a very good cooperation at regional level. So these kind of responsibilities and visibility is a very good timing for Indonesia to attract also foreign investments. And for us, it is a wonderful opportunity to share our experience because you don't have to invent a bicycle. Well, in some fields of energy we have done so, and there are really smarter ways and less polluting ways to cover your energy consumption than burning coal.
And Mrs. Simson, last but not least, energy transition should be fair and affordable. What do you perceive about this ambitious goal?
Indeed. We all are worried about current high energy prices, but lessons learned from Europe is that if in our energy mix there would be more renewables, then prices would be lower than they are right now when we are manipulated by our trading partner. So this is a way forward, and of course, despite the current war, despite the high prices, we shouldn't forget that climate emergency is still the very threatening, and well, if we do not act now, there might be a point of no return very soon. We have
to act now. So before you leaving Indonesia, what would be the closing statement, the message to our ministry who are concerned on energy transition, Mrs. Simson?
Well, you are a key country in achieving our goals. And your energy transition is not important only for Indonesian people and businesses and environment. You make a difference at global level. So this is a global responsibility. You have done wonderfully as a G20 presidency, but well, unless you are taking these challenges seriously, we will not be able to stop global warming.
We need the collaboration also. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kadri Simson, for the interview for Road to G20 Presidency CNN Indonesia. Thank you very much.